The other party is getting scared of the NDP. I'm Brian Lilley with TheRebel.media. Do you know how I can tell that the rise of the NDP and their leader, Tom Mulcair, in the polls is real? Because the other parties are starting to attack the NDP. They're starting to attack Mulcair. This time it's the Liberals who are doing the attacking, and they're doing it through Maclean's magazine. But what's weird is they're using a very old story. They're trying to point out that Tom Mulcair negotiated with the Conservatives for a position after he left Jean Charest's Quebec provincial government and before he joined the NDP. This is news that was first reported in 2007, back when Thomas Mulcair joined Jack Layton and Team Orange as a Montreal representative, as Layton's Quebec lieutenant. I mean, it was so widely known that the Gazette, as they were reporting on it back in 2007, simply said, while Mulcair had been actively courted behind the scenes by both the NDP and the Conservatives, sources close to him said he chose the NDP because he felt it is best positioned to make a difference when it comes to the environment. 2007. And yet Maclean's and their writer Martin Patriquin somehow miss this. Now, let me just tell you as an aside that Martin Patriquin is a writer who likes to think and tell everyone that he knows better about Quebec than anybody else, especially those of us that live outside the province. This is the man who's in touch with Quebec and all things Quebecois. And yet he missed this story from 2007 that was repeated again in 2011 and in 2012. Yeah, somehow Maclean's decided that they were going to do this. Actually, I'm not going to blame everyone at Maclean's because, as I'll show you in a minute, it's been mocked. This story being leaked several times has been mocked by one of Maclean's senior political writers. But let's get to that. So 2007, people just knew that Mulcair had spoken to the other parties. It came out later he'd also talked to the Greens and the Liberals. Mulcair had been a powerful Quebec politician, so people were approaching him when he left Charest's cabinet and was looking at federal options. So of course all the parties talked to him. He went with the NDP. But in 2011, after the NDP scored their big win in Quebec, and Jack Layton named Thomas Mulcair the NDP deputy leader, and things are going well for the party, well, that's when the story came out again. Here's an example of it from CBC's Inside Politics blog, where Katie O'Malley, then with CBC, was pointing to a story by Bob Fife of CTV. Check it out. Here's the tweet that she's pointing to. Bob Fife, Tories claim deputy NDP Thomas Mulcair negotiated to join Harper PMO before joining NDP. Well, that's when the senior Maclean's political writer joined in and was mocking this story. That's right. Paul Wells, pointing out that the Tories were leaking this, said, are the Tories really leaking that they failed to nab Mulcair before the party he went to won most of the seats in Quebec? So 2007, 2011, the story comes out. Then it comes out again in 2012. Why? Because Mulcair was about to win the NDP leadership race. And so both John Ivison of National Post and Tim Harper of the Toronto Star were leaked details of what was going on with Mulcair and the negotiations with the Conservatives. Why? Because New Democrats wanted to stop Mulcair this time. So now the story has been leaked by the Conservatives, it's been leaked by the New Democrats, and then now latest by the Liberals. But let me read to you the opening of Tim Harper's story from March 1st, 2012. This is important. Harper wrote, Thomas Mulcair could be a few short weeks away from becoming leader of the federal NDP, but there are fresh questions about how close he came to becoming a Conservative. Did Mulcair reject the Conservatives on environmental principles, or did he walk away because the government wouldn't meet his price? And that, ladies and gentlemen, that exact question that Harper asked in 2012 is now the basis of Patriquin's piece 3 years later. He's regurgitating the same info, only this time his only named source is Dimitri Soudis. Who's Dimitri Soudis? Well, he used to be Prime Minister Harper's Director of Communications. He was his press secretary for years, and he's Eve Adams' fiancé. And now Soudis has left the Conservatives and joined the Liberals. So this shows you how serious all the parties are taking Tom Mulcair and the NDP. You don't have to agree with them, but let's face facts. Mulcair has proven himself to be a skilled politician, and he's rising in the polls. He's rising well enough that the Liberals have decided they've got to go on the attack, and they're using little Dimitri Soudis and Martin Patriquin, to try and leak a story that everyone already knew about. Shame on Maclean's for falling for it again, and, well, kudos to Mulcair for rising in the polls. Let's hope, for the sake of Canada, it doesn't last too long.